I had a question I wanted to pose to you guys. I just something that was on my mind. It was brought to my attention recently, and I was just kind of thinking about it. I was wondering if other people had some advice they might want to give me, or just thoughts on the matter in general, just to start some discussion out there. It's regarding Dragon Ball GT, and basically whether or not it's considered canon. Um, and I was just thinking more in depth about like the concept of what we consider to be canon. I mean, uh, I think for a lot of people, if you simply don't like something, you dislike it to a certain degree, then you just sort of disregard it as canon. Like, I don't know, what's a good example of that? I think some people like to some people, the Star Wars prequels never happened because they disliked them so much. I'm not really sure if that's the correct way to go about viewing it, though. I mean, just because you didn't like something doesn't mean it didn't happen. I mean, myself, along with a lot of other people, didn't like the Boo saga in Dragon Ball Z, but I mean, it was based on something in the manga, so naturally it happened. Which is kind of another point I want to come to about the whole concept of canonicity and fiction. Uh, in regard to just Dragon Ball, for this obvious example's sake, because it's based on the manga, all things based on the manga happen, and every little bit of filler in the original Dragon Ball Z, according to some people, doesn't matter. Like all the little things, like Garlic Jr., uh, fake Namek, all those little things. I mean, they don't. Some people would say that they don't really add anything as far as character goes. They don't really add to the plot at all. Um, I think that in a lot of cases that is true, but I actually do remember that not just in Dragon Ball or Dragon Ball Z, but in other anime, you know, sometimes the filler did add to character, and sometimes it really did explore certain things that the manga didn't touch on. So, I mean, is it always a bad thing necessarily? I mean, for instance, in the original Fullmetal Alchemist, there is a filler episode where um, Al gets kidnapped and Ed has to go find him, and he has this discussion with a soldier about the Ishbalan War and how his experiences and what he learned from it, and you know, life is about more about the journey than the destination, that whole sort of thing. It's probably my favorite anime moment, and it's filler. It was really good filler. So I mean, does that mean it was bad necessarily? I don't know. I mean, those are just my thoughts. I'm just thinking, technically that didn't happen in the manga, so it's not canon, but it happened in the anime. It still exists. It's part of the story to some degree. Do I completely disregard something that's not 100% like the manga? Because personally, at least when it comes to Fullmetal Alchemist, I didn't really like the manga that much. I preferred the original series, and I'm watching Brotherhood at the moment. It's not bad. There are some things about it I do like, but that's another discussion for another time. I still prefer the original series just because I think that it was a lot more heartfelt and it didn't focus so much on action, and it was just a little less stereotypical Shonen Jump stuff. But anyway, back to the case in point about Dragon Ball GT. Um, I think that if you want to go for like, does it really contradict the plot of Dragon Ball overall? Well, yeah, because uh, Baby and Doctor, I think his name Doctor Miyu, the guy that helped create Android 17, Super 17 form, whatever. He was a Tuffle, if I'm not mistaken, and the Tuffles were technically part of filler from Dragon Ball Z. They weren't mentioned anywhere in the manga, so they're not even, based directly on the source material. But I mean, once again, for all we know, the Tuffles could exist. I mean, Akira Toriyama didn't disapprove of a lot of the filler that was written. I mean, I know he was involved at least up to the end of Dragon Ball Z, so it wasn't necessarily a bad thing. Uh, hmm. So yeah, basically, uh, my question is just, how do you determine whether or not something is really canon? Because uh, if it doesn't contradict the series, I guess it shouldn't make sense. I mean, like a lot of the movies, I don't know. I guess I'm kind of rambling at the moment, but basically, I'm just wondering if anybody out there, in regard to Dragon Ball GT, uh, should I watch it? Because honest to God, I've kind of avoided the series because I didn't really like the art style. I heard that it really wasn't that good from a lot of people, but I know that there are also a lot of people out there that do kind of enjoy the series. So I don't really want to be too biased. And to be honest, the few episodes I've seen, here and there weren't bad. Um, it was a little different, but I mean, it wasn't horrible. So I don't know. I guess I'm just wondering what people's opinions are out there, whether or not it's canon, whether or not I should see it. Just if anybody feels like responding, those are just my thoughts at the moment. Yeah. Thank you.